The biggest problem with politics in the world is we simply cannot, as a species, agree which is the best system and what is the best way to create and sustain such a system. It's not for the lack of trying. Very much to the contrary, history is often the story of groups of people trying to create such societies, invariably failing in one way or another. Usually the more utopian the project, the more abject the failure. I don't think there's been one single political ism that, having been tried, has actually worked out the way it looked on paper. Mostly, larger societies and civilizations were created, or eventually were changed, solely to aggrandise piddling little individuals who, through gall, treachery, and most of all sheer chance, wiggled their way to the top of their respective shit heaps and set about moulding the whole thing into a giant statue of themselves. That sort of thing is the usual standard of political history, and invariably that's how societies through human history have ended up. But there are always the dreamers, the people who turn their minds and other talents to mapping and promoting the best in terms of politics. Invariably, their dreams are of entire societies functioning along the basis of their deeply held political, social, economic convictions, which they absolutely assure are without blemish, or at least better than the others. I've absolutely no idea what a stable, optimal society would be like. I couldn't tell you the best, most effective way of facilitating political power. I have my biases, and I'm pretty sure I could make reasonable arguments for them, but I can't say whether or not I'll be right in theory, let alone in practice. Every idea I come up with that I think is at least reasonable, I can think of reasonable counter-arguments against, so I couldn't tell you what would be the best society for everyone involved. But I'll tell you who can. Just about everyone else in the world. This planet is chockers with people with ideas and without any reluctance in declaiming those ideas to just about anyone who will listen, even those who won't. And of course, all these ideas conflict with each other in some way, large or small. You have your basic differences between left and right, however else they're called, but you also have your more minor differences between factions of both. And if there's one thing the arch-political are good at, it's factioning, because if there's one thing we humans are good at, it's disagreeing with each other to the point of pathological hatred. And politics loves a good biffo. The moral convictions of the politically motivated is always so great that no immorality is neglected when it comes to attacking their opposite parts. When it comes to the struggle for power, there are no friends, only allies, and alliances are only expedients to power. Sometimes it's more overt, sometimes it's covered with slimy excuses and outright bullshit. And let us not forget, lying lies always close, if not at, the heart of politics. And this basic standard is right across the board, from the highest and most influential boardrooms to the local neighbourhood houses and town councils. Power abhors a void, and nature in its opposite of wisdom ensures enough people are chundered up from the soured stomach of the human stock to fill those voids with their big, excited egos. It's just as well power corrupts, because it's always the corrupt that attain it. When we see a leader coming across as sincere and caring, we forget that that leader is there because of any number of backroom deals, fights and bastardries of the kind that political power is made up and cannot exist without. It's what we don't see and hear that matters. But that's all to the good, because really, when such things do get exposed, what surprises is the inane pettiness and often blatant stupidity of the situations. Worldwide conspiracy? Bollocks. If only the world was being run behind the scenes to an exact, if convoluted, plan. Instead, it's all just a lot of petty jostling, bravado, name-calling, tantrum-throwing, plan-hatching, backstabbing, deal-sealing, promise-breaking, utter self-aggrandisement on a grand and insipid scale. Which explains, much more convincingly and simply, if depressingly, why the world for us is the way it is. We're being led, basically, by careerist idiots whose sole talent, such as it is for gaining power. Now, the terminally optimistic would have us believe that it's a matter of getting the right people into power positions, but those people invariably are on the margins of power. The real power isn't even always with society politics. A lot of people point to the bosses of huge megacorporations, banks and other such institutions and accuse them of being the real power behind politics. And in truth that's true, but not quite as people think it is. It isn't that Clive Palmer or Rupert Murdoch or whoever runs the Commonwealth Bank are actually interested in having political power themselves. Their agendas are, again, more prosaic. They just want society to function so they can keep running their businesses. That is as far as the political imagination of such creatures allows. Nothing like a serious restructure of society along radical lines, more just ensuring that legislation stays friendly to them. They want to keep mining or printing papers or conning people into loans they can't pay back because that's all they really want to do. That's their great place in life. It really is as pathetic as that. So what with that being the real practicing structure of politics, how far can we expect the conviction politics, the right and wrong politics to get? Communism disappeared up its own arse. Nazism was propped up by bourgeois types who underestimated Hitler's insanity and the slavishness of the crowds he attracted. Neoliberalism is probably the most successful of the revolutionary isms of the last century, since it had mainstream political support and was in just the right time and place to take advantage of the collapse in communism and new media technology. How long its course is left to run, I can't say, though of course others don't mind trying. But in any case, regardless of how many political utopias there are being hawked around the marketplace of ideas, no matter how many idiots are duped into pledging their sanity into whatever demagogues are being touted by whatever parties and their backers, no matter what any of us think is the right and wrong way to do things, we can count on, definitely count on, politics always reverting to type, always reverting to pure social stratification, with the majority squirming and suffering away at the bottom and some lucky duplicitous bastards at the top. Say what you will about human nature or how well technology will save us or how holding up coal trains will save us or whatever. The end results are always depressingly the same.